On this episode of Front End Fire, we discuss whether Pretext is killing CSS, Anthropic has a new model that can apparently hack anything, and Cloudflare is trying to recreate yet another major framework. It's Front End Fire. Let's do it. Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Front End Fire, the weekly podcast that helps you stay up to date on the latest and greatest in the front end world. I am your host today, TJ Van Tol. I have Jack Harrington with me.
Hey.
And Paige Nietringhouse.
Hey everybody.
And I have to open up the show with a short correction because last week when we were talking about Paige's pick of a new serial podcast, we had mentioned that the previous serial podcast, we struggled to come up with the name of it, and we thought it was called The Replacements. But that is actually a 2000 movie starring Keanu Reeves, and it is not a serial podcast.
Sounds great. Yeah.
What we were looking for was The Retrievals, which is not as memorable. Honestly, they probably could have come up with a better name than that. But if you're looking for the podcast, The Retrievals is what to look for in your podcast player. So.
Thanks for that, TJ. I just could not quite remember. It sounded close.
I know everybody listening was dying to hear that, but we gotta correct the record here and keep things honest. And then we gotta get to our news because I'm looking. This was a busy week in the web development world. So
indeed, it was.
Why don't we get into it? All right, Paige, you want to kick us off this week?
Yes. So I actually missed the initial kerfuffle that happened on the internet when Pretext originally came out. It was over a weekend, and I just wasn't on X or Twitter or whatever you call it. And it exploded.
Sacrilege.
I know. I turn off those notifications. I don't need more things distracting me. But anyway, Pretext. It is a new TypeScript written library that was written by Cheng Liu, who is a former React core team member. So he's got some big creds just for being part of the React core team. But the idea of it is that it is fast, accurate, comprehensive text measurement so that instead of having your browser constantly rerunning the layout reflow, which is what happens whenever text is changing or it needs to figure out exactly where it should be doing things like text breaks or line breaks, which happens a lot with masonry-style layouts and virtualized lists. There is now a two-step API that uses a function called prepare, which splits text into segments and measures panel width using the Canvas API. And then the layout function, which actually computes line breaks and total height through pure math at any container size with no browser involvement. What this means in actuality is that there are some very cool demos of like orbs floating around text and little dragons.
So cool. They really are
working their way through text, and the text is just moving around them as they move. But what is actually happening is that performance for the browser dramatically increases. So, for instance, 1,000 items go from taking 94 milliseconds to, I guess, reflow to 0.05 milliseconds, which is a 500-time performance improvement. Yeah, and it's really amazing to see. You really should go check out the show notes where we have links to the demos because they kind of illustrate it the best. And people just lost their minds online when they saw it. Some people were like, JavaScript has killed CSS. Other people were like, why would you use this? You have CSS. You don't need this.
Yes.
The thinking behind this, or some speculation behind this, has been that they're eventually going to create some sort of a new online editor like Figma, except better, being able to use this because you can, drag and drop text anywhere into a browser potentially or a canvas. We don't know for sure what he's working on or what the impetus is behind this, but what's really interesting is that it's said that he calibrated this line break algorithm by running Codex and Claude Code against real browser updates continuously for weeks to actually reach this. So I almost think that's the most interesting part of this whole thing, is that it sounds like it was vibe coded with just continuous feedback to the agents.
That's
Yeah,
really cool. I hadn't heard that part of it. That's neat.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's like the best kind of, or the most productive kind of vibe coding when you have someone who truly knows what they're doing, sort of guiding the agent through it. Because I think if it were just me, and I know a decent amount about the DOM and some of these APIs, I don't think you could have given me weeks to do this with an agent, and I would have come up with it. So I think it still depends on somebody who really knows the subject matter really well. And I don't know. This is just cool. I mean, I really do stress that, like, pull over in your car, check out these demos,
Yeah, the
because
demos are really cool.
they're really like nothing you've seen before. You've never seen a CodePen do something like these demos are capable of doing.
Yeah, I had some fun with it. I had it like wrap text around some pictures of my dog, that kind of thing. And it was cool, like, oh, all right, I get it.
Mm-hmm.
Still not 100% clear on why we would need this. I mean, I think if you're gonna do like a React Native type deal, like, sure, okay. I do remember, like, way back in the day, there was a website that was doing like a kind of RSS feed reading type stuff. It wasn't Feedly, it was another one, and they did all of their like newspaper rendering type UI on Canvas, and it was specifically
Yeah.
for these reasons that they were able to like actually do all the reflow and stuff really, really quick. So it's not crazy, but it's definitely, I mean, if you don't need this, you don't need this, like, at all.
Yeah.
It's a little more niche. I think if you are doing something like you're rendering a book or text, and you have a fancy animation, some sort of stylistic design in mind, those are things that were before next to impossible that this makes possible, and that's really cool. But most of us aren't doing that sort of stuff day in, day out. So if we are in those realms, or we do have to make one of those things, this is very cool and very useful, but this is probably not revolutionizing the web per se. What I kind of hope comes out of this is that sometimes when people make these cool demos, like I remember the original masonry type layouts when those became popular in CSS, and eventually that made it to the spec level so that you could actually do this with CSS alone. I kind of hope that happens here with some sort of DOM API or browser API, because the fact that he needed to go to Canvas in a kind of very hacky way to make this possible is kind of silly. So hopefully the browsers can expose this directly so that we can do this sort of thing without needing a JavaScript library at all.
Yeah, that would be very cool. But this has solved like a 30-year plus issue that browsers have had. So that's pretty impressive. But I think you're right. It's a very niche use case, and you probably, now that this is out, you'll probably recognize it and recognize when you need it, when you kind of run into it. But other than that, I think most of us will just be fine in our day-to-day without trying to use Pretext or having it added to our libraries and our applications.
And I definitely strongly recommend, before you go this direction, make sure that like CSS can't handle it, because CSS can handle like flow around the boundary of an image. There are some limitations, like if you want to do it on both sides, then you got to like split the image and a couple of things like that. But that's way less hacky than converting your entire layout to a canvas and then
And
Yeah,
then
but this
mapping
really-
it to death.
yeah.
Where this really works is when you're wrapping it around something that's not sort of a linear shape. Like, I mean, CSS is very good if you want to wrap around, a square image or whatever. It's no real big deal. But if you want text to wrap in a very specific way around a very specific thing, and you have to get down into the math of it, that's where this library really excels.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Like we said, it's not for everybody, not for most use cases probably, but it's pretty cool for certain scenarios.
All right. Well, that brings us to our next news. Jack, Anthropic has more shenanigans going on. Basically.
Shenanigans. Well, what they've done is they've come up with a new model. They're coming up with a new level of their frontier model. In this case, they're calling it Mythos. So they got Anthropic's Mythos model, which would be basically a next level beyond Opus, which is super cool and exciting. And my guess is what they did was they spent a lot of time training it on security vulnerabilities. And the idea being, we want a model that doesn't make vulnerable code. And what they found out was when they pointed this model at open source OSs and browsers and libraries. They ended up finding a ton of vulnerabilities in those, so much so that it's almost like a problem. And it is a problem. So they came up with this Project Glasswing, where they're basically giving a preview to a lot of the major vendors, Google, Apple, Cisco, CrowdStrike, Morgan Chase, all that, so they can go and actually handle a bunch of these vulnerabilities before this thing gets out in the wild. So it's pretty amazing that they have to do this. From a security standpoint, I can certainly see why that's the case. And this certainly embeds, I would say, Anthropic as the coding model company. Like OpenAI is more, good general purpose AI plus some really good coding. But I think Anthropic's just really, really, really leaned into being the coding model company at this point. And so, but this is really exciting. So one, a new model is on the way, Mythos is on the way, but it's not here yet because giving it to little old us, we're going to go off and find vulnerabilities in our banks and, make a lot of money, whatever, stealing money from banks or whatever. So yeah, interesting security update from the folks over at Anthropic.
Was this the same model that was in the news earlier this week that they said they weren't going to release to the public because it had just uncovered thousands of vulnerabilities across every operating system?
Yeah, Mythos, yeah.
I have to say, though, Anthropic has a bad habit of saying, we can't let this out into the wild. It's just our model is so good that we can't put it out there. So I found some old quotes. So Dario, how do you pronounce his last name? Amodei? I don't remember how to pronounce it. But anyways, here's a quote from many years ago. We've trained a large-scale unsupervised language model which generates coherent paragraphs of text, achieves state-of-the-art performance on many language model benchmarks, and performs rudimentary reading comprehension, machine translation, and summarization, all without task-specific training. As an experiment in responsible disclosure, we're going to release a much smaller model to researchers to experiment with. We have concerns about malicious applications of the technology. This is a quote about GPT-2 back in the OpenAI days. So he was concerned about letting text prediction models get into the hands of the wrong people. And I mean, obviously, it has had a lot of impact on the world, clearly.
Yeah, but I'm guessing a lot of what he thought was going to happen, spammers and scammers are going to use this to create targeted emails to people and blah 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 blah. Yeah, buddy, that happened. So and I don't know what giving people a preview helped, but in this case, I really do think it makes sense that they would have spent a lot of time hyper training this new model to create safe code, because that has been a problem since we started getting the vibe coded era. We call this vulnerabilities as a service because it's so bad, right? So the idea that they would go and spend a lot of time at the model level making sure the model understands security vulnerabilities makes a lot of sense, and then them running it against a lot of existing code makes a lot of sense. Looking for vulnerabilities and then finding a lot of vulnerabilities actually makes sense too. So I mean, yeah, it's probably a little bit of hyperbole, but it's probably no BS too.
Yeah, if you read or watch interviews that Dario's given over time, he's always a little bit like this. It's always a little bit breathless and oh, we can't release this, it's too good or it's too strong. And I think that's just part of being the CEO of one of these AI companies, is that you have to talk about how good it is to get the press to talk about how good it is, to get people to actually try it, and then talk about what they think of it for real. But yeah, I think he's always just kind of like this, a little bit more excited and potential and future states than the rest of the world who's not behind Anthropic.
Exactly. And I mean, clearly it's working. I'm just saying that this is also really good marketing for them, because a great way to get your models back in every sort of news outlet, including Front End Fire. This is just absolute bait for podcasts, for newsrooms, that sort of thing, because of course we're going to talk about it and cover it. And it also means that we don't really have a great way of assessing whether this model actually lives up to the claims. I mean, we can't go and try it. Lots of times when this new stuff go out, it's Jack Ray in the Pretext demo, we try to run stuff that we talk about in this show when we can.
Ran Gemma 4 recently. Gemma 4 is great,
Mm-hmm.
by the way. If you're looking for a nice small model, it's great.
Yeah, I've heard
But
similar.
in this case, we're just relying on this is all behind closed doors. But I think just the nature of this, you can't keep any of these things secret for long, right? Like, because you're giving it to all these different companies. Well, those employees are going to try using it for other things as well.
Yeah.
And it's just a matter of time before everybody's cranking away at this thing.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Another fun and interesting headline for this week came from our friends at Cloudflare, which I feel like are running half of our podcast nowadays, just because they're also cranking out interesting news all the time.
Mm-hmm.
They really are.
This time it's for another project on the web that they are kind of trying to recreate. In any case, they announced EmDash, which they tag as the spiritual successor to WordPress that solves plugin security. So to read from their blog, we think of EmDash as the spiritual successor to WordPress. It's written entirely in TypeScript. It's serverless, but you can run it on your own hardware or any platform you choose. Plugins are securely sandboxed and can run in their own isolate via dynamic workers, solving the fundamental security problem with the WordPress plugin architecture. And under the hood, EmDash is powered by Astro, the fastest web framework for content-driven websites, and which Cloudflare also acquired earlier this year, as we covered on this show. So to break this down a little bit, what they're talking about in terms of plugin security, WordPress plugins are notoriously insecure. So all WordPress plugins run in the same PHP process, which means that WordPress plugins have access to your database and your file system and other plugins and user data and all sorts of other things, which is why a huge percentage of WordPress hacks come from plugins. This is also why the WordPress team has to do a manual approval process to get into their Pluggo ecosystems, and then that can back up and they're not going to catch everything as well. So EmDash introduces this new model that is one of the criticisms of this is that it's very dependent on Cloudflare because, of course, they're using their backend technology to implement this. And the plugin security, even though this is an open source project, it's MIT licensed, it's open sourced, but to get the benefits of the plugin isolation that they talk about, that is Cloudflare specific. So it's a little bit disingenuous to talk about it as so open when one of the main benefits that you're putting in the H1 on your website is a Cloudflare specific thing. But it is kind of cool. We've talked about on this show before how WordPress people use WordPress like crazy. It's the most used thing to build websites in the world. And there's lots of angst around WordPress. Lots of people don't like it. They don't like the people running it. There's lots of concerns around it.
I've gotten my WordPress site, when I ran them, hacked a bunch of times. So not excited about that. Yeah.
So at the same time, there's all of that. And then having something that's built on TypeScript, right? Like this, they're almost talking directly to us in our audience because it's Astro. It's built with TypeScript, but it's still a CMS with WordPress. I feel like they're marketing directly to us because this also sounds very, very cool as well.
Yeah. I know that I was reading that article that they had written or that somebody had written about it. And I think even Matt Mullenweg, the creator of WordPress, liked some of their implementation details and was like, we should add that to the way that WordPress is done. So
he liked their agent skills. So they have a bunch of skills in the repo that help guide agents on how to do various tasks, which he wanted to, I can include his write-up in the show notes as well. It's actually pretty well written. It's very, Matt Mullenweg's tone is always a little bit, what's the word I'm looking for? Yeah, he's very passive aggressive in everything that he writes. But he did have some decent points. Like he points out that the plugin security they talk about only works on Cloudflare, and he kind of defends.
That's the thing, right?
Yeah. And he kind of defends WordPress's plugin architecture because he says that, here's the quote here, in another example of them not understanding the spirit of WordPress, the fact that plugins can change every aspect of your WordPress experience is a feature, not a bug. and their sandboxing breaks down as soon as you look at what most WordPress plugins actually do. So that's a decent point, right? Like the part of the reason people like WordPress plugins is because they can do a lot of stuff. And if you're putting them all in sandboxes, you also kind of cripple them as well. And there's a little bit of a give and take there. But he did commend them for putting it out open source, for doing it in the open, for reaching out to them, which they apparently did. So it's kind of cool. And I should also say too that we talked about Cloudflare forking Next.js and how that project was done entirely through just a vibe coded approach that was done over a weekend. This is not that. There's clearly more of an engineering effort that was put into this. It's obviously still AI driven, as a lot of other things are this day. But from Cloudflare, this is more than just like a weekend hack project. This is something they've been clearly working on for some time.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the Astro team is part of Cloudflare's workforce now, so they should put them to good use for their own benefit.
That is very true.
Yeah, and Fred's really good on the architecture side, so it doesn't surprise me that it's well architected. But it's interesting how Cloudflare gets away with a lot of the stuff that we criticize Next for. It's like Next comes out with something that's specifically bound to their architecture, and like, oh man, Vercel, and then Cloudflare does exactly the same thing. They're like, okay, we're gonna have these plugins run in isolates, and it has to be Cloudflare isolates or whatever. And you're like, what? Come on, that's crazy. I just released Code Mode as part of TanStack AI, and one of the things that Code Mode allows you to do is have the LLM run TypeScript, but that TypeScript is run in an isolate. And what we've done at TanStack is we actually created like this abstraction layer, so you can have Node.js, you can have Node isolates, you can have Bun isolates, you can have Quick.js on WASM isolates, you can have Cloudflare isolates, right? But we're not binding you into any particular solution. And I don't know why maybe they did the same thing here, but if they haven't, then that's come on, guys. This is not that big of a deal.
Yeah, maybe it's coming. Also, I mean, this is they say it's an 0.1 release. It's brand new. Okay. This is not a production anything at this point. But I think you're fair to criticize that if we're going to push back on Vercel for coupling too much of their stuff to their server backend, then Cloudflare should be held to the exact same standard.
Yeah. It is interesting, though, that Cloudflare, I guess, has done a better job of PR to garner goodwill from the general internet community and fandom, whereas Vercel, not since the beginning, but pretty close since they acquired Next.js, has just become this big dog that everybody likes to get down on. But yeah, Cloudflare is steadily increasing the target on their back, I guess, by going after all these other hosting companies, frameworks that are well regarded, or the big ones. So it'll be interesting if they can continue to keep their good name, or if people start to criticize them for tying everything to their own hosting platform.
Well said. We will see how it plays out. I'm excited, though, just to see the Astro team, because, I mean, we're fans of the Astro framework here. We've interviewed Fred before, and if this is their latest thing, I think that lends a lot of credence to what they're building, and hopefully it ends up being a TypeScript-friendly WordPress alternative, because that would be pretty cool.
Yeah, I love it. And we've been talking about, like, when there was the big WordPress kerfuffle, we're like, okay, well, there you go. There's your entry point to Astro,
Yeah, we kept waiting for somebody to build an actual competitor to WordPress. And it's still going to be difficult.
Basically done it, yeah.
It's still going to be difficult because it's just hard to attack something that big and that well distributed. But I mean, with Cloudflare behind it, that's a big name, that's a big push, and we'll see if it catches on. And all right, we have a bevy of lightning news this week. There's a lot of cool stuff going on this week, so why don't we talk about that?
Yes.
All right, I'm just going to go down the list on our notes here, and the first thing we have to talk about is we have to bring up Claude Code buddies. So
yeah,
Paige and I talked about this last week. We knew buddies were a part of Claude Code based off when their source code leaked. We saw that there was code in there for them. And they were released shortly thereafter. Basically, as our podcast went live, Cloud Code turned that on. You could run the /buddy command to basically hatch a new buddy for yourself. And I had a mushroom. His name was Bramble. He, he didn't have very low on chaos. All your buddies had different stats. And Bramble would chime in occasionally with a few short things. Bramble hung out.
I never got mine to chime in on it.
Corner. It would just show
they would
little
just
things in the
disappear
bottom corner.
quickly.
Yeah, it was
they
over
weren't
there,
always
and
there.
you're like, okay.
So first of all, what were you two both had buddies as well. Who were your buddies in Claude Code?
Yeah, I got Flutter Snark, which was an owl. He was actually pretty high on chaos and debugging, both, but he was low on patience and wisdom. So, he would say things, but it was mostly just snarky comments, not like some people who apparently had their buddies like actually pointing out things that Claude Code was missing or doing wrong in its actual coding implementations.
Cool. Yeah.
And Jack, who was your buddy?
I created. There he is. Biscuit. It's a duck.
Biscuit.
I don't even remember his stats, but Biscuit has done nothing. He's just sort of over in the corner, winking at me with his little X eye. I guess he's maybe dead. I don't know. But I mean, I think it's a good idea, right? Like, I do actually think that there is some value here, but...
Okay, so then that gets us into the actual update here, is that they turned buddies off.
Yeah, right?
They just killed them.
The next release, buddies are gone.
It was apparently potentially an April Fool's joke, but if so, they missed April Fool. So it was very confusing what was actually going on. And then Paige tracked down, there's a GitHub thread where people are just up in arms, including me, quite frankly, because I thought this feature was really cool. It's also harmless, right? You could turn it on. You didn't have to create a buddy. So if this was, if you didn't like it or if you didn't care for this, you didn't have to enable this. It was very opt-in. But I was like with you, Jack, I liked my buddy and I wanted my buddy to do something more, right? I think my only criticism is my buddy just kind of hung out in the corner, and I wanted to interact with my buddy occasionally, right? It gets lonely in the terminal when I'm just talking to Claude all day, right? It was nice to have a little friend.
Claude's off doing its stuff, right?
Yeah,
and I have a conversation with,
the buddy?
my duck, right? Come on.
It reminds me of, Claude Code now has a /BTW, by the way, command.
I haven't used it yet. Have you?
Yeah.
I have. So if Claude's off doing something for 2-3 minutes, right, you can say /BTW and just say, actually remind me what the API for this is. You could just ask some off-topic thing, and then it'll answer that without interrupting its main thing that's going.
Nice.
And I thought, there's something should exist for that for the buddy, right? Just while you're waiting, ask your buddy about something, or have your buddy answer your by the way type questions. I don't know. I feel like there's something more they could have done here, though, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, they better bring it back is the only thing that I can say. Because if you look at this GitHub issue, it is long, it is well thought out. People are mad. People very much miss their buddies. Some of it is just so over the top.
People Tamagotchis and then take them away.
I know, it's just
3
cruel.
days later, a week later, however long. Yeah, but the comments are really funny. And of course, people are spinning off now their own buddy code, so you can try and plug in buddies to Claude Code if you can't have the Anthropic version anymore.
And they're probably better. Well, I mean,
they probably are.
They would be better if they did anything, really, to be honest.
Yeah, exactly. They did put some good thought into the actual buddy screens were quite good. You could tell somebody put some time and effort into them, but that was the whole effort. It was just getting your buddy, and then from there, just kind of didn't do much beyond that.
I'll be honest with you, the state of the art when it comes to text UIs has really been pushed far with Claude and Open Code and all this. Man, I'm telling you, when we went, when terminal was the only way to do stuff back in Unix land, we did not spend this much time on making a terminal look real good, right? But nowadays, oh my God, these guys are doing some crazy stuff.
Yeah, they are.
There was no buddies back when you're just launching VI random.
You were lucky if you could put a theme on there and make different colors for your branch so you could see where you were.
Lord, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That was my first real terminal experience. I remember just trying to get the colors and the font to look the way I wanted was days. And then when you figured it out, you saved everything so that when you set it up again, you'd have it working correctly. And
your
crazy.
CSHRC file with all your saved themes in there.
Yeah. All right. Next on our list is also another update from last week. So we talked about the Axios hack last week and how that package got compromised for a while and how the maintainer, basically it happened because the maintainer had a token accessed that the malicious actor got a hold of. Well, the person who had this hack done to them posted on GitHub a pretty thorough write-up on exactly what happened, because previously it was just speculation. We knew he was hacked in some capacity, but we didn't know how. And he posted the details, and I'm just going to read through his bullets here real quick because it's kind of crazy. So they said how it happened was they reached out to this guy masquerading as the founder of a company and they had cloned the company's founder likeness as well as the company itself. They then invited him to a real Slack workspace, and they made this workspace. They branded it like the other companies and named it in a plausible manner. The Slack itself was thought out very well. They had channels where they were sharing LinkedIn posts. It was super convincing. They even had fake profiles of the team of the company, but also other OSS maintainers. They created fake accounts for all of these people. They then scheduled a meeting for this guy to connect with. And the meeting was on MS Teams, Microsoft Teams. And the meeting had what seemed to be a group of people that were involved with this. And then the meeting, when he actually went to join the meeting, it said that something on his system was out of date and that he had to install something. And that's where the actual, the payload got distributed to his system. But
this guy didn't stand a chance.
Right? We talk on this show all the time how anybody is susceptible. This can happen to anybody. And if they're going out of their way enough to create fake Slacks and populate this fake Slack to look real just for one guy, and then set up realish looking meetings, any of us could have easily fallen for this.
Absolutely. Yeah.
For this trap.
Yeah.
This poor guy.
I thought kudos to him for actually writing this up though, because this is an embarrassing thing to happen to you. And it is though, I think, really good to know the details of how something like this happens. So, I mean, it can happen to anybody, but if you know things to look for, it can help. So I guess if you're invited to a different Slack that looks credible, maybe do some due diligence. I don't know.
And what a brilliant moment to capture someone for a vulnerability. If you are late to a meeting, or you're right at the time of meeting and you hit Zoom and Zoom's like, oh, wait, I need to give you an update. Of course you do it. Because you're I don't want to be late to this meting. And it's of course you're going to just say, okay. Zoom, it's
Zoom
the one time where you're just okay, let's go.
And I don't know if you two use Teams, but it is very bad about this as well. So that one really hit home for me because I'm an infrequent Teams user. So it feels like every time I open it, it needs something.
Right.
So I totally would have fell for this as well because I would see this and go, good God, Teams again? What do you need to update this time? And then I would just click the button because I wouldn't think much of it because it's just something I do all the time.
Exactly.
Right. This guy didn't stand a chance. This was a highly engineered and thought out attack. So
exactly.
Yeah, I feel terrible for him.
But a huge upside for the hackers, right? Because if they can get onto Axios, the number of projects that they can hit.
Well, now they're going to use Claude's new model, Mythos or whatever. That's going to just accelerate all this stuff.
Yep. Nobody's safe.
By the way, guys, you don't need Axios much anymore. Just use Fetch.
Yeah.
Just say it.
Yeah.
Seriously.
All right. Next two are very short. Next one is Chrome is getting vertical tabs.
Woo!
It's not live quite yet. I don't have it. And I checked for updates, but apparently it's getting vertical tabs and it's also getting a reader mode, which Safari has a reader mode that's quite good. So one's coming to Chrome as well.
Chrome didn't have a reader mode? Wow. Okay. Yeah.
Did not have a reader mode. I don't know.
Who knew?
Maybe
I
they
will
wanted
say,
people to download all their ads when they
probably.
read content. I don't know.
Yeah. I am getting a lot of use out of the split tab feature with Chrome, though. Being able to have two
Nice.
browser tabs open side by side has been super useful.
I need to try it more. My brain still doesn't think. There's times where I definitely could use it, but I just don't. It's not
You
my
don't do it.
instinct because I just forget that the thing exists. So
Yeah. Like there's this thing Polypane out there that's really
Mhm.
cool. It basically gives you like it's browsers at various widths and they all look at the same, page at the same. It's a development tool.
Mhm.
And so you can basically test out all of your responsiveness in one go if you have a nice big monitor. And I just rarely ever remember to use it because it's not my main browser. And I end up developing in whatever my browser of the day is, like Chrome wrapper of the day,
Yep.
Dia, whatever it is.
And then the last thing I had on my list was that the State of Web Dev AI survey for this next year is out. And considering AI is now fundamental to what we do, I think this is a survey that's definitely worth taking a look at. I went through it this morning. It asks about exactly what you'd expect, what AI tools you're using, what percentage of your code is now written by AI. I thought the questions were quite good to the point where I'm interested to see the results of this thing. So if you're also curious, I'll have a link to that in the show notes so that you can fill that out and check it out. And then Jack, I think you have some bonus news as well.
Yeah, I am now a Google GDE or Google Developer Expert for Cloud AI. So yeah, really excited about that. What that means is I'll basically be able to get access to a lot of Google stuff early and give them feedback on it, but also have it so that when it comes out, I can make some good content on it. So I'm really excited to work with the Google team and see where we go from here.
Awesome.
Is this related
Congrats.
to your work on TanStack AI?
I mean, it's kind of more broadly, but yeah. I mean, it certainly will help with that because it's, now I'll have access to the Gemini team. And yeah, when they come out with new features, we want to be able to support them quickly, just like we would with any vendor. So having that is great. It's not a paid thing. It's not nothing like that. It's just, access, which I think is fantastic.
Yeah.
Very cool.
And then you briefly mentioned earlier, but I know you wanted to talk about a little more about code mode in TanStack AI. Do you want to explain what that is to people?
Sure. So code mode is this really cool idea. It was actually pioneered by Cloudflare. Senio Pi over there. And so the idea is that we know how to give an LLM tools, right? So, like let's say you have the demo that we have is like a shoe category, a shoe list, right? And you can ask questions like, what's the average cost of a shoe? And it goes off and it makes a bunch of tool requests to go and get the list of shoes and go and get them individually and all that. Well, what code mode allows you to do in this particular demo is that instead of doing that, we give the LLM one tool, execute TypeScript, and then that tool in turn, that execute TypeScript function has in turn embedded into it those tools of like getting the product list and getting all of that. They're all injected into that isolate. And then the LLM can write code to call those in a very efficient manner and actually like come up, do it, whatever calculations it needs. It has full access to TypeScript, although not for things like fetch. You'd have to like bring in, it's a sandbox, right? So you need to bring in anything that's going to give you external access, but you get to control all that. And it really, boy, the efficiency is amazing. So every tool call that you have with an LLM means a round trip to the server. This means a whole lot less round trips to the server, which means a whole lot less sending a whole lot faster, a whole lot less sending of messages. It's really cool. It's also very accurate. So in the demo that we have where you do the shoe comparison, because you're allowing the LLM to do math on the tools side, it actually has to go and get all the data and then do the math. It rarely gets the right answer. But on code mode, it always gets the right answer because code mode is writing TypeScript and TypeScript is doing the math and there you go. So it's not doing math. So it's basically a way to play to LLM's strengths while avoiding the LLM weaknesses. And yeah, it's now released TanStack AI. It is totally external to TanStack AI. It is a tool builder that you don't have to engage with at all if you don't want to, but it works with many different models. We have a comparison list of all the different models and how they perform in code mode. And then it also works with any isolates. So it's not necessarily bound to any particular vendor, and it's not particularly bound to any particular isolate vendor. So, yeah, excited about it.
As a high-level approach, I think it's very cool because I think I've talked about this on the show before, but one thing I do increasingly now is if I have a task that I think AI will struggle with, sometimes I'll ask it to just write a script to do something instead. Yeah. Like I had to do a refactor, just move a bunch of files or whatever. And I was like, I think it's going to screw this up. But I had it write a Python script to do it instead. And then sure enough, and then like if it gets it wrong, you can tell it to just adjust the script. You can restore your Git state, have it change the script a little bit. So I think this just is a high level approach, which is kind of the same idea of what you're talking about here. Just doing it in a safe way has a lot of potential.
Yeah. We've got a blog out on it on TanStack, and then I've got a video for it that was released this week. So if you want, we'll put that in the show notes, and then you can watch for yourself. It's only 7 minutes of demo, but it shows that not only how to do the basic code mode stuff, but also skills. So you can give the LLM the ability to store the TypeScript and say, oh, okay, that was a cool tool. I want to reuse it next time. And then next time it has access to it, and it can just like, okay, cool, bang. I'm just going to do that again. So nice. It's really neat. Yeah.
And this is all live. People can try it and whatnot.
Yep. Absolutely.
Perfect.
All right. Well, we had a lot to talk about today, but we of course have to end with what's making us happy.
Oh, yeah.
Of course.
Jack, what's making you happy this week?
3D printed planets is making me happy this week. I'm doing another kind of like art installation in my back yard area. Originally had I have the mushrooms thing that I had, and that's been really cool. But I wanted something for the deck, and my wife and my kid are all into astronomy, and so I was like, oh, cool. I'll go and actually like print out all the planets and then stuff them full of outdoor controllable LEDs, and yeah. So in the next week or two, I'll have that all up. But it's just really cool that I can actually like print out like a 200 millimeter like ball of Saturn, like hold it in my hands and be like, that's really cool.
So are they to scale?
No, my wife was all like, they're all the same size. I'm like, yeah, well, that's kind of the, But when you light them up, it's the width of the material changes. So you get this like lithophane like look. And so you can easily tell like Earth because you can see the continents, right? Because the seas are not as thick as the land.
Yeah.
And so you get this cool effect.
Do you have these things hanging, or are they like affixed to the wall, to a wall?
They're going to be up on little pylons on the railing of the deck, so kind of back off the deck a little bit, like so they're just kind of like, imagine like fairy lights. Those are like, everybody's into those nowadays, but like actually on the like attached to the deck railing and then kind of around the edge of the deck. And of course there's 10 of them because there's 10 planets. Oh, there's one sun and 9 planets.
How are you powering these things?
So all you Pluto haters out there, I'm doing Pluto.
How are you powering these things?
It's actually pretty easy. I'm doing WS2811, which is a 12-volt power supply, to the outdoor LEDs, which are like contained. They're all, weather protected and all that. And so the only like vulnerable points would be my little solder stuff that I have to do to connect all the wires together. And I'm pretty good about doing all the installation and all that. And then there's an outdoor 110 to 12 volt power supply, and then a 12 volt to 5 volt converter for the controller board. And then the controller board is also exterior rated. So, and then the controller board is really cool. It actually like has a little antenna, and it connects to Wi-Fi, and so I can control it off my phone, and I can even like it's just a running web server, so you can hit it with WebSockets and change each LED individually, or you can do like REST stuff. It's these guys have gone hog wild on this stuff. It's really, really cool.
Can't wait to see photos of that.
Oh yeah, I'm really excited. The other thing you can do is you can actually wire it up to a microphone, or it's got its own little microphone built in. But I think you can extend it with an external microphone, which I'm probably going to do because then I can have it like key into the movie that we're watching. You know, if we're outside, that could be kind of cool.
Love it.
All right, Paige, what is making you happy this week?
I'm going to say that OpenAI's GPT 5.4 model is making me happy this week. And this was actually a tip from one of my coworkers that he was using it in GitHub Copilot to actually do code reviews for him. And he was saying that it was actually doing better than Claude Code Sonnet was for just kind of like, especially if you need to do a code review where it's like, this is a new feature. Is it stylistically the same as what the rest of the code base is doing? Or are there things that could, features that could be improved, loops that might not have been caught correctly, things like that. And so I've run it a couple times against PRs that I've been reviewing for my own code, and also had Sonnet do the same thing in Claude Code. And the amount of detail that GPT 5.4 gives as opposed to the Sonnet implementation, even if it's a new model like Claude didn't implement it, Claude's just reviewing it, it's significantly more. And some of the stuff is like nitpicky and very pedantic, but other stuff is actually like, oh, this is an edge case that could trip something up, or, this is unneeded code. It's not being called anywhere. It's dead, whatever. So yeah, I was impressed with it. And since we have GitHub Copilot as part of my company's just plan for all of our developers, I think I'm going to try using it some more and see how it does for code reviews. But yeah, it came in handy. It pointed out things that Claude didn't catch. So yeah, better than I expected it to be.
Well, and nitpicky and pedantic is how my code reviews normally go. So
exactly.
Nice. Yeah, no, you should have something like on the TanStack team. We have CodeRabbit, and CodeRabbit then gives you a whole bunch of PR feedback, and yeah, sometimes it's nitpicky and pedantic, but other times it's like, oh, okay. And the really cool thing that it does, it gives you like a little fragment that says like, just feed this to Claude Code, and it'll let me know. It'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
I've been using the GitHub Copilot version that's built right into GitHub, so you can just request Copilot reviews it, and it's been okay. It's part of our plan, so the button's right there, so I might as well press it, and it occasionally catches some things, but I haven't been super impressed with it, so I might have to try out some other review tools.
Yeah, the nice thing about using it through VS Code, which is where I run it, is that you can change the model. So you can change it to Anthropic, you can change it to OpenAI. They have like 5.4, they have Opus, they have all the different ones. So yeah, I've found the same thing. It's like in GitHub, it's just kind of okay. It's never uncovered anything earth-shattering in its PR reviews when you ask Copilot to review, but being able to run it locally, the results seem much better. So
that's a huge win, because then you don't have to actually like send it up to GitHub to actually get the review. It's like, okay, no, actually I'm going to run it before I check it in and address any issues. That's great.
Yeah.
Do you run it when the changes are still active, or are you telling it to actually compare it against like the main branch or something like that?
No, I've been running it when the changes are still active. So I'll tell it, this is a PR branch that I've pulled down locally. I want you to compare it to the rest of the code base, and it can figure out what files have been changed or modified just by looking at the Git history, and then it can compare that to what else is in the code base already.
Gotcha. Cool.
Nice.
All right. Well, what's making me happy is Mammoth. Mammoth is a rock band. It has Wolfgang Van Halen is the head of it, son of Eddie Van Halen. And I hadn't seen them live before, and they came to Grand Rapids, which is like 45 minutes from me. So I had to check them out, and it was an awesome show. It was really cool. They're like just a classic rock band, like unapologetically, and which means it was very, very cool to see them live. The one interesting thing that I thought you two would find funny is that, so they have, like a lot of these shows now, they do 3 or 4 songs, and then the head singer comes and just talks to the audience.
Oh,
for a
nice.
while. And he's like, yeah, what's new for our tour this year is they had a big screen behind them, and the screen behind them had all these animations and videos they were playing while they were doing it. But he made a point of saying, he's like, those videos were created 100% by a human. And then he went on this rant against like AI. He's just like, basically just said like no AI was involved in this. And then the crowd goes crazy, right? Like when he's going on this AI rant, that everybody's loving it, everybody's digging into it. So for as much as we knocking stuff over, for as much as we talk about how AI is revolutionizing everything we do and all this stuff, it's as we talk about in the show a lot, the public sentiment is still not there,
Public sentiment
especially in
is
the art world.
terrible.
Yeah.
Oh my
Everybody
God.
who's not in tech hates AI for the
Oh,
most
so
part.
bad. It's like you go to a party and you're like, hey, what are you working on? It's like AI. And they're like, you're like, oh, wow. Okay.
Yep. And I can see why artists especially would not be huge fans of it, but man, it's just something to see it put right in front of your face like that too. But
yeah. Well, I'm not a fan for the most part of like the AI generated videos and stuff that seem for the most part, but I did see this really cute one on Instagram earlier this week where somebody had recreated the rescuing of the lieutenant who was trapped across enemy lines in Iran when his plane went down with Lego. And it was the funniest, cutest little video. It was completely AI generated, but it was Lego characters, it was Lego everything. They had voices, it was just like the Lego movie, but in like a 2-minute video clip, and it was completely AI done, but it was very cute.
That's cool.
yeah, I'm going to agree with you too, that when I've seen clips AI, that are clearly AI done, they've went from gimmicky to actually genuinely interesting in many cases. Like you can see how just better the technology has gotten, and we're still very much at the forefront of all of this too.
Yeah, So I've been doing this thing where I did this like potato and onion holder for the pantry, and I did some AI art for that. And I think it's really cute, and at the same time, yeah, I didn't get an artist to do it, but I know I've experienced this. I've actually tried to like contract with artists on like Fiverr and stuff. And they might in turn use AI, one, and two, it's like it was never like I would have to go through 1,000 iterations to get to where I got to with this stuff, and I'm not selling it. It's just a piece of art in my own house. So I don't know. There's kind of I like it, and my wife likes it, but I think my kids like because they're like totally anti AI everything. And I'm like,
I'm kind of at the same place. Like when I'm doing quick little things like that, it's not the sort of thing I would ever commission anybody for anyway, right? Like it's not like I'm going to do it, and I will still hire someone for anything of importance for work purposes or whatnot. But I could totally see why people in that world would hate it, because but at the same time, like, AI is absolutely coming at all of our jobs as well, for sure. It's automating exactly the sort of stuff we do. It's automating web development. It's automating podcasting. So we should have every reason to hate it just as much, because it's in the process of automating us away too.
Yeah, I mean, all the tech companies are still doing layoffs in the name of AI, improvements and investment instead, even the big ones like Oracle and Atlassian and Google. So yeah, we should be, but we keep using it and keep upgrading to the latest models.
And we keep talking about it on this show because if nothing, that's our coping mechanism. We just talk about the new stuff. We got to have fun with it, right? Like if it's going to replace you, you can't change it. You might as well just use it. We talk about all the cool things we get done with it. So it's like,
I can't deny that like there are all kinds of things that I've learned from AI. Like I relearned how to solder from AI, and I wouldn't be able to do any of these like outdoor art projects and stuff like that. And so it's very gray. There's parts of it that are great, and there's parts of it that are not great. And I mean, one thing is like, why am I doing all these outdoor art projects? Well, it's because like I'm not getting the dopamine hit that I used to from doing software, because now AI is writing most of the software for me. So I don't get that joy of like, oh yeah, I did something cool.
Figured it out.
And so now it's like I want to go out my garage and do art projects where it's like I feel like I'm doing something, like I'm making something. And so it's like AI created a problem and it's helping me solve that problem. It's crazy.
Yeah. And I think like there's two sides of every coin, and on this podcast we try to focus on the positives. We try to be optimistic. So we cover the security problems, we cover the mess, but we hopefully at the end of the day try to get people excited to work on cool stuff. We do this show because we find this news interesting. We find it fun to talk about, and hopefully you all listening like it as well. So
yeah, and love it or hate it, there's no going back. There
we
are
can't
people
stop it.
who have said that they're just like, hard stop, no, not using it. Well, okay, but the other people around you who will eventually take your jobs, or all of your jobs will be gone, they will. So get on board, I guess.
Yep, maybe not next month, maybe not next year, but it's coming. So all right. Well, that's why you got to keep listening to Front End Fire. You gotta hear about all the new things you're going to get used to replace you. So thanks. Just wanted to end. Oh, go ahead, Paige.
I have one update, or one last thing that's making me happy that everybody else can be happy about. Dungeon Crawler Carl is going to become a TV series. They have greenlit it to be a show.
I have heard this, and I still don't understand how in the world it's going to be it, because that world is so wild. Because I think it's live action, right? I think I heard
think
that.
So, yeah.
I mean, that I don't even understand how that's possible.
Well, they did One Piece, and One Piece is
they did do it with One Piece, and I would have never thought One Piece would have worked, and it somehow does. So yeah, we'll see. But I think that is our episode today. We've packed a whole lot in here, but I think this is a pretty fun show. There was lots of cool stuff to talk about. If you want to continue the conversation, you can join our Discord in the Front End Fire channel there. We have a link to the show notes. We also have all of our socials, our email and whatnot there as well. But thanks everybody for listening, and we'll see you next week.
See you next week.
See you then.